All right, perfect. So I'm going to get seated as well. Let's try and start off the discussion. It's been an entertaining year when we talk about 2016. A lot of stuff happening when we talk from an M&A point of view, from the VC industry also. There have been enough developments. Sean, let's start off by you getting a sense as to what's really played out in 2016 so far, because we just at the end of the year as well. What's been your sense of it for the VC industry?
I think 2016 has been almost a steady state reset from an investment from a startup perspective. I think the years leading up to this have been quite chaotic. I think there's been a mass democratization of capital and democratization of entrepreneurship. So it's been very, very easy to set up companies in the last few years. I think we've seen a huge number of companies being created, being funded through angel investing, being funded through SEIS programs, through crowdfunding programs, and there's been kind of a mass explosion of the number of startups, which is both very good and very bad at the same time, right? The fact is entrepreneurship is tough. We've seen some companies not make it, we've seen others do very well, but it's much more level-headed, steady state, and I think that's very positive for what it means for 2017 and beyond.
The second half of 2016, we saw the M&A environment in the IPO markets, actually for technology with Twilio, with Coupa, with Trade Desk. It all kind of matured a lot more. There are plenty of more funds in the market, and there's a lot more capital available to invest in, which is encouraging, and across kind of seed, sort of small A, and beyond, which is really encouraging. I think 2017 will be a strong year, and where, particularly within Europe, you're starting to see that each kind of location is having more identity. So within Europe, kind of compared to the US, for example, you have hubs, right? London, Paris, Stockholm, Berlin. In London, I think you're really seeing a very strong sort of AI hub, and there's a lot of emerging large corporates like Google, DeepMind that are investing a lot here and spinning off a lot of interesting companies. Berlin, you continue to see a lot of great logistics-intensive businesses just by way of the online marketing expertise that Rocket Internet sort of teaches you. I mean, the Nordics are still seeing great sort of design-oriented startups, a lot of healthcare. There's a lot to be excited about.
I think once we know what the plan is, assuming it's not too crazy, everything will be fine. The US big companies are still continuing to invest here. I mean, there's a little bit of a pause, but Google and Facebook and others are continuing to invest. And so, touch wood, it'll all be fine. I mean, you say, what does an investor really do? So you guys have a million things you're dealing with, right? You've got limited resources, limited people, limited money, limited time. You're trying to figure out where to invest, what to do. Do you do a new product line? Do you invest in marketing, a new geography, all that sort of stuff? What an investor can really do is we can help you make those tough trade-offs while thinking about what is the story for the next round of financing. What are the next round investors going to want to see? And that's the most important thing that we can help you do. We can't make those really tough decisions, but we can sometimes say, you know what? Actually, we're better off not entering a new geography and better off having slightly more data on different marketing channels to be able to raise the next round. And that's what they should be doing.
In the UK and London, as well as in Berlin, there's tons of new funds, and that's really encouraging because entrepreneurs need help and financing when they can. I think Hussein brought up a really good point. It was around growth rounds sort of becoming a lesson. There was sort of a big pop in 2015, not just from US funds coming in here, but also European funds sort of doing lots of rounds.
So 63 new funds. If you look at the amount of corporates, and corporates are a great indicator of when you're in market euphoria. So when corporations think that they can do venture capital better than venture capitalists, you kind of know you're at the top of the market. So there's a ton of money, but nobody wants to write big checks. And the problem with big checks is you need decent-sized rounds of capital to be able to do it. And so writing a $5 million check or a $10 million check or a $20 million check probably means you need an aggregate pool of a couple of $100 million bucks. Not many people have a couple of $100 million bucks. It's very easy to raise 20, 30 as a fund. It's very easy as a corporate to allocate 20, 30, 40 per year. It's very hard to allocate 200 a year unless you're Google and someone very cash flow rich. So those rounds are all reasonably tough. And every company that's good but not great, every company that's bad is probably not going to be able to raise, but every company that's good but not great or not exceptional will struggle. And we've seen that over the past year.
Can I ask the audience a question?
Yeah.
So how many of you guys have heard of Seedrs or Crowdfund platforms? How many of you have made an investment yourself in Seedrs or Crowdfund? 4 or 5. How many of you read the documents that you got? So 2 of the 5 that made investments. How many of you were satisfied with the documentation that you got? Okay.
It was my company.
Okay. Good. Yeah, so you were quite happy then. Interesting. Okay. No, actually, there is something behind that, which is there is a huge amount of money going into the early stage right now. I didn't mean to typecast anyone as being dumb money. The fact is, all of us that invest in startups, unless you do it full time, we're kind of dumb money because actually, as I said, like those legal documents, I read them. I invested in a brewery in East London just for fun. They can turn around and sell the company to their best friends tomorrow for £1, then buy it back for £2 the day after, and there's nothing you can do about it. So you could sell the company to your partner if you'd like. You don't want to do that. Sorry, I wasn't really going anywhere with this outside of saying that across all stages, there are folks that are just excited about the technology world, wanting to put money into it without understanding what the downside could be. My fear is, it's not that people, I fear that people lose their money. It's not good anytime someone loses their money. But my fear is that the next Facebook, Google, whatever it might be, comes out, and it turns out that the little investors got screwed along the way. And it'll happen the same way other people are going to lose money investing through crowdfunding platforms. My fear is that the regulation swings too far the other direction because of that, right? And the pendulum goes from very light touch right now to way too much in the other direction.
I think most of the regulation, to be fair, is a bit of a red herring because it's usually designed around the retail investor. Most of the money, like this was the year, again, people are forgetting, this was the year of Theranos, right, which was a very well-funded company and a poster child for bad governance. This was the year of Powa, another one that was backed mostly by families. There's one entrepreneur I met here, VE Interactive, FT Alphaville wrote a big long thing about it. It was super insightful. But when I met this guy, he basically told me he had no idea who I was, and that I was a venture guy. He hates venture guys. He's only taking money from families, and his company is valued at 12 to 20 times revenue, not earnings, revenue. And so he's buying ad agencies and agency businesses at 1x revenue, thereby increasing his revenue base and commanding a 12x premium on it. This is like downright, outright fraud. I mean, like, you know, and nobody's asking the questions. And on top of that, almost his entire base is individuals, and he's selling secondary stakes from individual to individual and netting a commission for himself. I mean, you know,
by the way, the VCs fuck up. VCs mess up as well, right? So we're not experts by any stretch. I mean, there was a company in the social networking space here in London that raised 15 million pounds with nothing and spent all of it in a year without ever properly launching, right? There was a company in Germany in the last year that I tried so hard for 6 weeks to get into the deal. I was going to Berlin 3 times. I put in term sheet. I kept raising the price. End up losing the deal to someone else. Then they raised 6 million euros 6 weeks later. Then they raised $25 million from a leading venture fund 9 months later. And burned through $40 million in a year and had to recap the entire company. I would have lost everything. So
and company, if it's the same one I'm thinking of, they were counting leads and bookings as revenue, and nobody noticed.
It's not only that, but salespeople were booking a sale, canceling it, booking it for the next day, and counting that as revenue twice. And so, and I looked at it, I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I was like, wow, this looks pretty cool. This is great growth. Look at that, look how many bookings they're taking, doubling every day. It was amazing. And so, now that is downright fraud, what we're speaking about, but we can all get it wrong. It's really hard to run a startup, it's really hard to invest in startups, and so we just need to make sure that we're all kind of being level-headed about this.
So I think one of the things that history teaches us, right, if we look at history and as a guide, every time there's a new market shift and there's a new market that gets created and capital seeks out a return on that opportunity, it tends to get inflationary. It tends to get very euphoric. It tends to go in, and then eventually things kind of settle down, the dust settles. People do lose money in the process. It happened with railroads. It happened with .com. And it doesn't feel like we're anywhere near that level of euphoria, but it does feel euphoric, despite the fact that there's also this bearish climate around the macro stuff with the politics, et cetera.
My issue I've got is that one of the leading kind of accelerator company creation programs, 20 companies pitched, 18 of them said they were AI companies. And that is just not true. You can't just be a technology company and say you're an AI company, because it sounds cool to put that in there. And very few of them had AI. They might have had some smart algorithms that they developed in Excel or someplace else to do things, but that is not AI. And so I think when they do a service to the entire industry when everyone says we're an AI company. That's my issue.
Well, when you
I mean, so really, like you can call some tools what they are, but ultimately, does the company, does the business, does the team provide value to its users and to its businesses? And yeah, fine. Like there are some companies that are AI. They really just sort of, they call themselves AI, but they really just sort of pattern recognition businesses. Look, if you actually assign pattern recognition to a really well-defined problem that's very specific, but there's lots of competitors, I'd still actually take the time to look at it. But I do believe that there is a bit of a mismatch between sort of the knowledge set that even some investors that I have that even respect, and like what's sort of being pitched to people. You just need to be really careful about like what you invest in and be smart about where you spend your time.
What's that? Yes, I look at AI a little bit differently. So if you look at AI as a technology, I think it's a race to the bottom in terms of being able to deliver value. Everything in the computer vision papers, if you read them and you go to the annual conference, every single year someone is one up at the other, and within a year that stuff is mainstream and everyone else is using it. So if you're building core foundational technologies, you're going to lose, right? And the likely winner in that space is going to be Google, Amazon, et cetera, who are just going to acquire those kinds of bright researchers. AI is really about a search for proprietary data sets on which you can train the algorithms. The algorithms are a commodity. If you can commandeer proprietary data that nobody else has in the world and build a service around that or build a platform around that, then you have a shot. Generally speaking, anything that you're going to read about in the papers or the tech press or the business press, if you're investing in that sector then, after reading those things and getting excited, you're probably about a year or two behind the curve, and that's not the right way to invest. You need to, if you look at the other big one with virtual reality or augmented reality, and by the time you're reading about Oculus and Magic Leap, the ship has sailed, right? I mean, those were investments that were great like 2 years prior, 3 years prior. So ours is a market where we're searching for the next big thing, and we're searching for that next big thing before it's identified as a next big thing. And that's what makes the job incredibly hard. And it is ultimately an insider information game, because your ability to be able to spot the next big thing may be due to your own IQ and your own Rolodex, but realistically, it's going to come from chatter among people who are a hell of a lot smarter than you. So if you're not deeply embedded in the ecosystem in the industry, you're going to get it wrong.